Hey
Hi,
Jen, how
Gail.
are you?
Pretty good. How are you, Gail?
I am all right. How's the garden doing at this late stage in the dryness?
It's not very good. Yeah, I have you heard of Asian jumping worms?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen
well,
them. They're disgusting.
they're disgusting, and they're in my garden. They're in everybody's garden. They're in the forest. They've invaded, and that's kind of sapped the vitality of the soil, from what I gather. I mean, I've still got a few vegetables here and there, but I tried to, dig up a lot of the garden and pull them out, one by one. But that's a futile effort because they're just all over the place. So,
Ugh, oh,
so
that's sad.
I've got a few things, that are growing. Peppers. This is a great year for peppers. I don't know why peppers are so outstanding this year, but the peppers are wonderful, and everything else is sort of mediocre. So
Dang.
so it goes. Uh, but
Is there anything that takes care of those jumping worms, like
no,
chickens or something? No.
no, not really. I don't. The only thing there really isn't much of a solution. I mean, you could dig up the entire garden and pull them out. That they do. The frost does kill them, but they lay eggs, of course, and they come back up. In the spring, they start to hatch in the spring, which means that this is why the garden looks so good up until about mid-July, and then the jumping
Oh,
worms seem to sort of take over after that. So, but unless there is, for example, the only way that you could probably get rid of them would be after they hatched in the spring, if there was a really suddenly an unexpected deep frost, which of course you wouldn't want for a variety of
right,
reasons.
right.
But that would kill them again, and then that might clear the jets, so to speak. But I think that they're just one of those things that it's sort of like the Asian, the all of the pestilences afflicting our ash trees.
Right,
That beetle,
the ash borer.
the ash borer, and then the hemlocks with the. It just goes on and on and on. We're being invaded by pests from all over the world. Well, so it goes. And Steve, to answer your question,
My question?
well, you sent me an email having to do with whether I had. See, when you looked at the minutes, Gail's suggestions and changes had already been sort
Mm,
of. That's why you didn't see Gail's, all of Gail's changes that she made. But I've incorporated yours as well.
okay, okay.
So we're sort of all set in that department.
Well, I know Craig isn't coming tonight, but Graham didn't say that he wasn't. So I
Yeah.
think he's probably just running a little late. So we'll give him a couple more minutes here.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, where are you living? You're on the eastern side of the lake, right? Uh,
yeah, yeah. I moved into my rental about a week and a half ago.
oh, hmm.
Yeah.
Is it towards the southern end or in the middle, or is it off of what's the name of the
It's on the
name
Laurels.
on the
Oh,
Laurel,
yes, yeah, South Laurel.
South Laurel? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you had nice weather to move back into.
I think it was probably the nicest weather of the whole week this past week. Like up
It
until
wasn't
today,
it?
it was just like spectacular.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
don't know if either of you have been over to Brightwater Bog to see the work that they've done.
yeah.
The
I
Ames old place.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's unbelievable.
It's really nice.
It's I went over there several times while they were working on it, and to talk to the guys who were doing the work. And in the back of my mind was saying, who is paying for this? Because it
It's
is
Capital
so
Trust.
they they drilled, the galvanized supports that, with screw augers that went into the ground, they drilled those down to where it hit bedrock. And it did that how many times over with? I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, and it took them a year and a half to do it, or even more from what I gather. But
Yeah,
it's
well,
beautiful workmanship.
yeah, they did it. Well, my friend Walker Corby, his company did it, and I as when I came back, I saw it and sent him a thank you note just because he
Oh,
did such a great
yeah.
great job. Steve, you and Janet would really enjoy it, I think. Really
Yeah,
good like photography
yeah. Last time I
opportunities.
was over there, yeah, I was still getting even in a dry season, I was still getting my feet pretty wet. So I thought, let's. So I'm
Well,
glad to hear
it's
it's
all
done.
changed now.
Great.
It's a spectacular installation. I mean, it'll outlast all of us by, I mean, it'll be there for years and years and years. It's beautifully done.
Well, at least you and I, Jim, we
Yeah,
have a younger person with us.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
It'll probably outlast me too. When before they did it sometimes and it was really bad, I would um I would run with plastic bags in my pocket. And then when I
Wow.
got there, I would put them over my feet and like waddle through the water.
Mm,
And then on the other side, take them off and keep going.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds.
it was so sorry, just like always in the overflowed.
Hmm,
So, Graham, we're talking about how great Ames Haven and Brightwater Bog has become with the new boardwalk. It's really nice.
yeah.
They did
I
such a good
was
job.
just there. I was just there today. Yeah, it's delightful. Yeah, and um, yeah, a few people complained that it wasn't named after Julian, and my wife said, "Well, yeah, Kestrel's being sensitive to not naming everything after dead white men." So,
It's true, but and Brightwater Bog is a good name, and there's still signs up to honor him, and
Yeah.
you know,
yes, yeah, yeah. So I was a few minutes late because I'd been procrastinating on getting the on cue thing into the phone, and of
oh yeah,
course it always registering it always takes 5 minutes longer than you ever hope it would. So
every time I log into something, I feel like I'm trying to hack into my own account.
yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. Our lives are so secure now; they're almost impossibly secure, aren't they?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, they are. So what Graham is referencing is that our generator system for Kohler has a brand new app that so they discontinued the old app for the new app for getting notifications and such. So it required a whole new setup
Hmm.
um, on phones or your web app.
Oh,
All right, well let's officially get started. I'll start with my little spiel here. Welcome to the September 18th meeting of the MLP Board and Broadband Committee. I am Gail Huntress, MLP Manager, facilitating the meeting. This meeting is fully remote. Participating remotely, we have MLP board members Jim Hemingway, Graham Sefton, and Stephen Schmidt. And absent tonight is Broadband Committee member Craig Martin. So first order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from August 21st. Motion to approve as amended.
second,
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, Hemingway,
I.
Steve,
Aye.
and Graham.
I'll vote present. I read them, but I wasn't there, and someone told
Yeah.
me I should. But I would approve them. But anyway, yeah, present.
Excellent. All right. First item is hut report. Anything to report on that, Graham?
No, but I do remember that. So yeah, as you Gail would know, the temperature hasn't changed as far as we haven't got any emails, so therefore the heat pumps must be both working, or at least the one that's leading is continues to work. But I did ask when I was there when with the technicians. I said, so we were told by someone installing them that, or you were told maybe, that that a surge can make them just shut off in their effort to protect. They can blow like a circuit breaker. And I said I've never come across a surge protector that is supposed to work like that. And the guy said, no, the light will change. It can destroy the surge protection thing, but they'll continue to be connected. So unless the wall is blown up, so therefore it's not a surge protector that'll dump it, in that setting. So that's good, because it would be unfortunate if a surge then didn't leave it running. So
The
just
surge
clarify that.
protector is designed to fail on. Is that?
Yeah, they fail on, exactly
Fail
right.
on.
Yeah. But they change the color of their light so that you do know that you need to replace the protective element in the thing. So that's what one examines it for. It has a green light when it's totally functional, and it changes to an orange or a red light if it has suffered a surge and been destroyed, and its protection invalidated. So anyhow, good to know.
Yeah, so if any of us are at the hut, it's a great practice just to take a little peek at the surge protectors. Make sure both of them have green lights.
Yeah.
Let's see. Maintenance and service report in August, we had 44 tickets, so pretty normal. We always want to see somewhere between 35, 45 cases. So, nothing's really standing out there. We are working on putting a temporary connection to the library site right now, to just an aerial connection. Ultimately, it will go underground, but just to wire up the construction trailers that are there. So that's in progress. And
Yeah, I saw them. I saw them on one morning at the pole across the road from the construction. Did they not do it in one shot just because they needed a far pole or something?
they had to go out and investigate the MST there.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah, apparently the cut sheets weren't exactly accurate, and they didn't know if there was an open port on it. And
Yeah.
so and it was so they had actually had to go in and run a little test and see. So they did find
Yeah.
an open port there. So that's fine. And yeah, and I don't know if it's been done yet, but I do know that there is a problem with the port.
Yeah. Cool.
So this is to provide currently is providing service to the contractor's trailer.
Correct.
So are we selling them that service?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll have to sign on as a regular customer. I assume the town or the library budget will take on that customer. The old library at some point will get shut off, I would assume. So ultimately, they should only have one service unless they keep the old library building going for some reason, in which case they need to pay for two ONT connections.
Probably the construction firm is paying for the. They're at least they're used to. Typically, a construction firm would pay, the whole thing, including the electricity, because they also have to hook up their site electricity for the construction trail. So yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. So during
we probably have a new customer. Yeah, in the customer.
Interesting. But usually it's not the entity or the ultimate owner that pays for it. It's the construction company that pays for all the stuff during construction.
Yeah, and the construction contract will say that the construction contractor has to pay for, the porta-johns and the electricity
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
the connection. And because they're so whiz-bang, AutoCAD drawings and stuff like that, they really do need a good connection for data. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can at least give them that.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know why my hand is up there. Where did that come from? Oh, sorry. Okay.
All right. Budget stuff. Um, so right now at this point, about 3 months into our fiscal year, we're at a break-even point in our budget. We're with about $1,899 in the black and positive. So that's good. Um, I am sad to say that I'm still working with Gail Weiss in the town finances. We have exchanged so many reports over the last month and a half. Um, and the latest report says that we should be getting certified for 70,753 for fiscal year 2024. Um, Interestingly, there's a shortfall of 10,500 for that year as well. So um, it's not that we don't have the money, it's the way that the reserve fund that we voted in was applied. I still don't understand how that all works. I went in and met with Gail on Thursday to try to understand it. We had a long conversation about how that is, and it was a shortfall of 40,000. And after talking about it for a long time, she said, well, I could apply the June payment from the MLP fees and apply it to fiscal year 2024. And so that's what she did in the latest reports, but she just sent them to me yesterday. So I have not had the time to go through them thoroughly. I've also sent them to Steve to be a second pair of eyes. So the two of us will take a look at that. Um, and even with that, though, that still leaves the shortfall of 10,500. Luckily, we have the state grant the federal grant that we got for that CAF 2 funding for 44,000, which can be applied. Again, I just cannot understand, and I don't know if it's just municipal financing rules of how and when money gets applied, because we have like the thing I don't get is like how can we have a excess funds of 70,000 and yet the shortfall of 10,500 last year. It's like we have the money, but for some reason Gail can't apply it in the way that.
Does every penny we spend have to have been encumbered in a town meeting? Is that one of the reasons why?
No, I would say no, because there's two totally separate budgets that or accounting systems that we're using. One is the appropriation at town meeting that says, so much for for backhaul, so much for utilities, so much for the for Gale stipend, da da da. That totals up. And so that's what's appropriated. But it's not really appropriated because it's not coming out of tax revenue. We actually fund our budget through our actual revenues. So at the end of the year, the accountant tallies up, which Gail has done throughout the year, all of our actual income, the actual revenue we get from the MLP fees, which is not that big a job because it's 12 checks a year from Shell to the town. And then tallies up the actual expenses, which of course this year were way more than we had budgeted for because of the pole transfers due to the national grid work. So, there's a whole lot of lines on forms, but you can break it down into here's what we took in and here's what we spent. And then the one little, or not little, but the one tweak to that is we had the previous year's retained earnings of 130, I've got it right here, $136,943. At special town meeting in January, we appropriated the full amount of that to our reserve fund for the FY24 because we knew we had those big bills coming in for the transfer. But there's not that many real moving parts here. So it
No,
should,
yeah,
it should
it's yes, I
you
get it.
know,
It's
I've
like
been
four
working,
numbers. It's like,
yeah.
how can this be?
I mean, there's a couple minor things like Gail Weiss is carrying over the $850 appropriation we had for the auditor to next fiscal year, now the current fiscal year, when it's actually going to be needed. Well, okay, there's $850. It goes from this to this. And because of the payroll system the town uses, there's a few $100 encumbrance of the manager's salary that is paid in one fiscal year, but is appropriate from the other. But these are a few $100 in a few $100,000 operation. Gail, I've been working on this afternoon. I got kind of bug-eyed looking at it. There were so many.
Steve, I've spent probably close to 12 to 15 hours over the last month getting report after report and trying to like put the numbers together of and in my mind it's also not complicated. It's like here's the money we spent and here's the money we took in and actually my numbers that I've been tracking all year and Gail's numbers agree down to the penny, which I'm pretty proud of. But then there's these, like the reserve funds and things that just do not make sense to me. And
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
understand if it's a misunderstanding on my part of how the she kept saying like it has to be done through general ledger. And I'm like, yeah, but isn't it just accounting of like money in and money out? So I'm glad you're back because I feel like I'm going crazy and need another pair of eyes. So what I would love, Steve, is connect with you maybe on Thursday or Friday and go over understanding. And I think also it's a great idea. I know you emailed me and said like we need to make sure that Gail does not submit anything to the state until we all are agreement of like what's happening here. Because the rolling back anything that gets kind of we're still in the um, you know, various reporting stages, but anything that gets submitted, I don't want to have to do complicated rollbacks if there's a mistake in there.
Yeah.
So
And I may need you to resend me some of the figures because somehow my email seems to have lost the attachments on one of the emails. But we can talk about this tomorrow or Friday. I have time. So
you got it. I have time on both days. Let me after tonight's meeting, I'm gonna resend you the reports. And I'll give you some time windows of when I'm available. And you can choose what's convenient for you. Probably on Friday would be best. So that we both
yeah.
have time to look at them
Mhm.
again. I just got them yesterday, and um, after spending all those hours with the original reports to get a new set. Oh,
It's sad that they should make it that it should be so complicated. It like you say, it's income, it's expenditures. It should be, but yeah.
yeah.
Jim, did you get all those notes?
No, I'm
Good.
gonna have to.
Yeah, so yeah, sorry, Jim. This is I think the note should say simply that Steve and Gail will continue to work with Gail Weiss
Yeah.
on our fiscal year 24 revenue
Mhm.
and final financial reports for the year. Um
Excellent.
that's because that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
All right, I'll try to figure this out.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a simple statement of where it stands right now.
Yeah, yeah, you don't have to capture any of the like that background gem or the numbers at this point, because um
Okay.
yeah, we don't have kind of the final picture still. Um, I have another financial question that I wanted to pose to all of you, and that is about our, we're offering this $15 Shutesbury subsidy per month for people who qualify for Lifeline. So this is how we're trying to fund the gap between people who are getting the affordable connectivity plan that the federal government ended, and trying to make it as affordable as possible to those in need. So what we had decided as a group, which still stands and should stand back in the spring, was that anyone who qualifies for Lifeline, that's our qualifier that we were going to use for this our own subsidy program, would automatically get the Shutesbury subsidy. So the $15 that we would give off their bill. So right
Yeah,
now, what Sheld is doing is giving me the spreadsheet reports that are very clear in that they list every single subscriber. They list what their charges are they getting phone, what the taxes that they're charged on. And then there's two extra columns, one for Lifeline and one for the Shutesbury subsidy. And so right now they just take that out of the money that they provide to us and in the MLP fees, it's just in this nice clear spreadsheet. Here's the discount. And so we don't get that money from them. My question is, if this is a line item in our budget, should I just track it financially of like this many subscribers got it this month, for this much, so that we as a committee can know how many beneficiaries we have every month and every year for this line item? Or should we actually have Shell be charging us for this so that there can be an invoice?
hmm. Let's think about this. It's a very good question, and I'm looking up our budget right now.
It's 5,000.
Yeah, but I'm looking the way, because we had that question about how to lay things out in our budget regarding
In the budget, it was multiplied by the average expected number for the year. So that was a flexible number in itself, because we didn't know how many people
Correct.
would average in the year.
yeah.
So it
I,
already has wiggle room.
I'm thinking how, when we were putting the budget together earlier, we stumbled over the way to report, show the CAF2 funding and the fiber rental to New Salem, and how, and so we had changed the way that was done. So I think, okay, this is another, non-standard item we've got here. So it's a very good question. Let's just think a little more about how to handle that.
Yeah.
And how about if we think of it like every customer gets a different bill anyhow, depending on whether they have a phone and Ethernet. So there's already there's already a variety of bills that get
I'm
sent.
looking at the budget and realizing, yeah, again, this isn't being handled quite correctly in the budget, because we have this as a $5,000 expense in the budget, but the way it's being um, handled by Sheld right now is it'll be a $5,000 reduction in our income
Hmm.
instead of an expense. So if instead Shell paid us the full amount and invoiced us for that, then it would work this way. But that may not be the best way to do it. We may want to, again, show this as a, let's think about this a little more.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So, all right. So the yeah, so my thoughts are the advantage of them actually billing us for it is that it becomes a line item in our budget. We're
Yeah.
actually paying for it. There's receipts for it. We can show we spent this much. The drawback of that is that it is an extra complication of billing, right? Of that, we're passing money back and forth instead of it just being reducted from the one check that they give us. So that's
That's
uh
true, but when we first started an operation with Crocker, it was like, gee, we're getting a check from Crocker, and then we send a check to Crocker to pay him for the backhaul. Couldn't we just simplify this and just have them deduct the backhaul from the amount they uh, reimbursed us for the fees? Said no, better to keep each item separate so you can tell when you look at your annual financial reports. Here's what you took in. Here's what you spent.
But Steve, that's a real bill that they get, isn't it? I mean, the backhaul bill goes to Crocker or goes to someone. So that's a little bit different to adjusting an income with invoices backwards and forwards. I kind of think that we're creating an invoice here,
Yeah, but
and
and that
money backwards and
could
forwards.
well be true. That's true, and maybe we should continue having Shell handle it the way they do. But in that case, we should take that $5,000 line item out of our budget. We're showing a $5,000 expense in our budget here for subscriber support. And it's explained as reduced subscriber fees for low-income households. That should just be taken out. And then the bottom line, where we show MLP fees, we should reduce the
I
expected
say,
revenue for MLP fees by that amount. Which
Clean
we
and
actually,
tidy.
yeah,
That just
we
seems clean
actually
and tidy.
used to do that with the reduced fees for the vacation. What did we call it? What do we call that?
yeah,
Yeah,
the
part
seasonal
year,
the se- season
seasonal.
seasonal
Seasonal
rates,
cost.
which is still happening. We just don't really account for it.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
figured, it's a small amount,
Yeah.
small number of people and a small amount. So um, we'll just, all you need to do is reduce your total number of expected subscribers by a few, and it works out.
I like that model. Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't charge. We didn't pass things backwards and forwards, invoicing money that they didn't charge and we didn't get. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it the same way.
Okay.
So
So
for
I mean
next
it's
year,
it's
we
already
should
in
be
our
looking,
budget this year, but I can make a note, and I think you're right. That is a better way to do it, is just make our budget to match reality so that the subscriber fees collected are reduced by that amount.
yeah.
Okay.
And we can have a note on the line item for the budget, MLP fees, it's calculated so much with a reduction based on a certain number of subscribers getting this. We can note that that's included in the budget.
Yeah, yeah. And I have started a new spreadsheet on our profit and loss tracking, which shows every month exactly how much our MLP fees are being reduced by, so that it will inform our budget next year. It's still in flux. We don't know how many people are going to qualify for Lifeline, how many people are going to apply. Um, so we'll hopefully we will have a more accurate estimate than we did this year. And
Okay.
so, okay, we'll do that. I will make a note of that.
But every budget we take to the town meeting is just a reasonable guess on what these things are in a way, isn't it? So,
Mhm.
we can be wrong. I mean, that's you're not going to be onto the penny on that one because you don't know ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah. It's one
It's
of
a
the
budget.
unknowns in our budget. It's not a fixed
It's called a
expense.
budget. Yeah, that's why it's called a budget.
Yeah.
This is topic is very difficult for me to put down. So you'll have to.
Yeah, so yeah, it's okay.
It's very
Um,
complicated.
oh no, I don't like how the way you can't chat. Can you chat? No, you can't chat.
No, not allowed on
You're
town
not allowed. You're
thing.
not allowed to
No,
chat. Um,
no.
uh, Jim, just leave a space for that and say insert stuff about subsidy, and I will send you a paragraph to put in there.
Okay, all right.
No.
All right. Want to
One
talk
quick
about more?
question. Just a quick question. Were there
Mhm.
like 20 something Lifeline people? I can't remember from the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
time we looked.
So we had 21 through July,
Okay.
and that was the last month that we were giving
Yeah.
the subsidy to prior ACP customers. That
Yeah.
dropped pretty dramatically in August to 11.29. And that partial thing is because people could, if they signed up or for a
Out
a
of a
partial
month.
month of service, that's where that comes from.
Okay.
Um, so that's the
Not like 2.2 children per family.
exactly
Mhm.
exactly 2.5 children.
Yeah.
Um,
Ouch.
so the transition month is August, and then by September, we're going to get the baseline. Although more, I also think that people, although we warned them multiple times, they got letters saying the ACP is ending, you need to apply for Lifeline, that the rubber's going to hit the road now this month, and they're going to say, wait, where's my discount? And then,
Yeah.
and I hope that they will apply because
Yeah.
you know, we
Okay.
we we did budget for all of the people getting ACP to also apply for Lifeline. Like, we
Yeah.
anticipated that they would all at least try for it.
Yeah.
So
But a
yeah.
lot of us procrastinate things like that. So
Oh, especially this. I mean, this horrible application process, which
yeah,
is
right. Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
daunting.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Um, let's see. Okay, some manager report stuff. Steve, you had asked at the last meeting about the ability to support outage text notification.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up having a long conversation with the Sheld folks about this, and they went back and talked in Integrity about it because I think it's a great idea. It would be really helpful in our town to be able to do this, to send texts because when the internet goes out, some people can squeeze a text out. They can't make a phone call. Um, so um, unfortunately, the answer that came back was no, and here's why. Um, the liability that could come with texting of that type of information could be pretty substantial, um, especially if it has to do with kind of a life-saving communication. And Integrity won't take that on.
Hmm.
So they just don't want to get involved with that. Additionally, even with with like a quick support call, there's too much information that would be difficult in a text conversation to have to exchange back and forth. Um, and then they would have to have a whole nother system for receiving the texts and communicating with the customer and a ticket tracking system for it. Because right now, the phone call comes in, it goes to the tree of texts. Um, the technician who answers it gathers all the right information, puts it into a ticket. And so they have to deal with things like, well, where would that text go and how would it be put into a queue? And if we're lots of them, what do they do if the person doesn't respond right away, right? Like the abandoned text, they're trying to do two things at once. Um, it's more complicated than chat help, which is offered by a lot of companies, like you go to their website and then you get a little chat window. That's relatively simple to do, but text, it's a whole different thing. So it's basically a whole nother system. So no, no, it doesn't exist. They're not planning on doing it because of the liability and the cost and the complication of it. If it's something that we think is really important and worth pursuing, we could find another third party that would do it, but they're not going to touch it.
Okay. Well,
So that's a really long answer, but there it is. So let's see.
yeah, I just,
Yeah,
asking.
I think I think as more cell coverage is eventually going to come to town, that's probably our best bet for a secondary communication system. And it'll come eventually, I think. But it's going to be a while. All right. This next thing I have is I'm sorry to say that we need to talk about the library audit problem again. We had a vote as well, you guys had a vote as the MLP board to not support the request for the $4,000 per year for the library audit. And
For the current fiscal, for in
yes,
addition to our current
yes,
fiscal year.
right.
Yeah.
I got a bill in my mailbox for the 3,500 that it's going to cost this year for that audit.
A bill from whom?
Here, I'll show it to you. It's from Scanlon. So it's the auditing company, and I don't know if you can here, let me get it. I don't know if you there it is. And see how it has the town's portion for 14,000, and then underneath it, our portion is highlighted for 3,500.
Well, wait a minute. We never contracted with Scanlon. The town contracted with Scanlon. And this strikes me is very irregular. You know, we finally asked the town attorney to send bills directly to the MLP so that we would pay our portion of them. That was our request on that.
Yep.
I
Yes, and I'm not happy about that bill showing up either. It's especially without, discussion, but let me tell you where we are with it. I called Donna and had a conversation with her about it, and she said in cases of the MLP and a town, well, actually an enterprise fund, I mean that's what we are in a town disagreeing about this. In this case, she cannot give us legal advice.
they, somebody is.
Yeah, can maybe you guys some of you mute maybe? There's an echo happening.
Turn my volume down. That's
Oh. Okay. Um, sorry, Graham, I just accidentally muted you. I didn't mean to do that. If you go to your Zoom window in the lower left corner, there should be a little slash over the audio button. Oh, you're good now. You did it.
It's fixed, yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Is there less buzz from
We're
whatever
getting some garbled sound coming through from somewhere, but let's see how it is now.
Okay. I think I don't hear it now.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Maybe I had my volume on too
Yeah.
loud, giving feedback.
So anyway, Donna can't officially give us legal advice because she represents both the town and us, right? So it's a conflict. Um, she had a conversation with me about it though, of just kind of like overall advice, not legal advice about it. And I think that her observations were right on that um, we don't want this to end up on town meeting floor because that's where we're headed of having to put our budget out there and then only putting in the apportion 2,000 for our budget and then somebody else in the town. I don't know who exactly, if it would be the finance committee or Becky or the select board saying, um, uh, this amount isn't enough and here's why, and we have to vote to override the proposed budget that the MLP has presented and vote on this different budget. There is enough dissension and with the town. So,
But Gail, that would be talking about next year's budget, correct? About
That would be next year's budget
FY
because the town has
26.
already voted on this year's budget. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, yep. So that could happen in next year's budget. For this year's budget, one thing that I noticed is that our auditor amount that we appropriated is only $435.
Was that was that from the previous year? Was that what is that what our auditing usually costs?
No, I mean our original cost was $850, and I think what happened this year was that we said, "Oh, nobody's ever used that 850 because that's the cost every year. So we're going to reduce that by half." Again, this was before any of this audit stuff happened.
Because we audit every second year. Is that the reason why?
Normally we audit every second year.
But again, understand the we is not the MLP, it's the town. The town has an audit of all of its books, and typically town size of Shutesbury is done every other year. And the town contracts with an auditor, Scanlon Associates. I've worked with Scanlon for years. I have very high regard for them. They do the entire audit of the town's books, including the enterprise fund, the MLP, because that's a town department. The town contracts with them. They do the audit. The town gets a bill for it. And the town has a line item in the town budget that was voted in last year. I could even go up to...
We received a bill from Scanlon in previous years on the second year thing, or it always goes to the town. Okay.
No, we've never gotten a bill directly from Scanlon.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So, did we ever? Did the town ever ask us to transfer the 400 and whatever dollars or in a year, or 800 in any year?
We have turned the money over to the town at the end of the year, just as we do for
the treasurer,
a portion of the treasurer and the accountant and the electricity for the hot. That goes to the town, which of course just goes into the town's general fund.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually go to pay for that. The town pays these bills.
Yeah. So this extra accounting, this extra auditing thing is totally an every year thing for the library project. Is that everyone's understanding?
It is. And I want to make sure that we talk about these issues as two separate things, right? Yeah. There's the first issue is that just for regular auditing, the money in our budget is not the right amount. It's way too low. Okay, regardless, there was, and I think it is on, like, nobody on in the town ever told us of like this, it's too low. So that was an oversight. We can point all sorts of fingers, but just a lot of stuff happens on the financial side of towns. No one told us. If they had told us back in last April or whatever before our budget was set, we probably would have said, oh, okay, we'll increase that.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
second
that's
issue,
why budgets get reviewed before they get
yeah,
put to the
Yeah.
town meeting. Yeah.
yeah, the second issue is that the cadence of these audits is happening as in an irregular way because of the library. And I think you've all already voted on this. I don't expect us to take another vote that no, it's not appropriate for the MLP to pay per your vote for that, right? And so um uh I and the other piece of this is that um Rita Select Board Rita Farrell called me on Monday because she had heard from Donna that there is this enterprise fund issue, and Donna said, "Why don't you call Gail and see if you can work this out? Because we don't want this to turn into yet another Shutesbury legal problem, and we don't want it to end up on town meeting floor." And so I had a very nice conversation with Rita about this. And although she cannot speak for the board, she agrees with all of you about the fact that this should not be an MLP expense, that it should just be the 2,000 every year, because this is spurned by a town thing, not an MLP thing. And so she'll, she thinks the select board will support that. And so we're all in agreement. And ultimately they are the deciders. So I feel like we have no conflict there. But we do have this bill for 3,500 for this year. That is way more than what was in our budget. I want to propose that we pay half of it. We pay half of the 3,500, and that the town pays the rest. It is somebody's fault that nobody let us know that the amount we budgeted for was incorrect. But there's a lot of moving parts in our town, and it was an oversight by everybody. So
Well, it
what do
wasn't
you
an
think?
oversight by everybody, wasn't
Yeah.
it? We aren't part of the oversight. I was looking for something. I have the town budget. Here's the yellow sheet from
Uh-huh.
the annual town meeting right here. This is what was voted for. This is the town budget. This is not the MLP budget. And it is line 17, independent audit. And there was budgeted for FY25 was $9,000. And our budget, as Gail points out, used to be 850, but now this year we had 435 in there. However, Gail Weiss carried forward last year's $850 FY24, the MLP's $850 appropriation for the audit, which we didn't pay last year, so she carried it forward. So they've got that 850. But I mean, the $9,000 shows the town did not appropriate enough money even for their share of the audit, let alone the total cost of the audit.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that bill from Scanlon shows what's the town's portion?
14,000 for the town, $3,500 for the MLP.
Yeah. And yet,
Whoops.
they only
Yeah.
appropriated 9,000. So
Mm.
it looks like, okay, trying to scrape this together.
Yeah.
Gail, I hear your suggestion. It's
You
not
can
like
turn it is a suggestion. You are the board. You can turn this down.
my suggestion would be to mail this bill back to Scanlon Associates and tell them we did not contract with you the MLP did not contract with you to perform an audit. The town of Shutesbury contract with you to perform an audit. This bill is a bill of the towns.
And Gail, you could still go to the select board with your suggestion that we split it, right? I mean that.
I don't, well, I don't want to take that unless you guys think that
Yeah,
that's it. I don't want to say like, let's split it and then nope, sorry, we won't. I only want to take that
I figure we pay.
as a
I figure
solution
we
here.
as individuals pay this bill, whether we're doing it as on our broadband bill or whether we're doing it in our tax bill. So in a way, each of us sitting here, it's whatever seems like an acceptable, negotiated, but not a rip-off sort of a ram down our throat. If I don't know, I'd go with 50-50 if that's if other people, Steve, Jim, 50-50.
well, I've I've said no. I mean, obviously, if we could, if we want to sit down with the select board and negotiate it, and they say, how about 50-50? Okay, you can compromise. I would say
Rita seemed to think
anything
that,
we pay,
they would be very open to that solution, and that she agreed that ultimately it is the town's responsibility to cover the shortfall here, just like if the MLP had, like, if we were under budget and losing money, the town would have to cover that. If we were on the verge of bankruptcy, the town they'd have to raise taxes, or we would have to raise rates to make up that shortfall. The town is the backstop, because of the format of the enterprise fund that we have. Um, so
something
yeah, we can't be, I think, forced to pay here, that ultimately it is the town. I am trying to avoid this becoming a huge problem for the MLP, and uh, some kind of dissension between the town and the MLP, because I think it's important to, kind of like maintain at least the illusion of goodwill for the townspeople. I really don't want to have this to end up on town meeting floor of having this have to go to some kind of vote and explain to the townspeople why this is happening and everything. It's just like, we have enough problems to not worry about $3,500.
So
And
could
again,
we
this is
authorize you
this is
to
me as
negotiate?
the manager trying to like move things forward and smooth things. You guys are the board. You get to make the final call on this.
Gal, could we authorize you to negotiate with the select board for a compromise? Whatever you, I mean, I'm comfortable with that.
I can, but I'd like some direction about what would be an acceptable thing there. Like it seems like Steve feels pretty strongly that a split isn't quite the right thing here.
Well, it's okay. It's the way it was done to get a bill from them. I mean, I don't think Scanlon decided on his own to send this bill to us.
I'll bet he didn't.
No, I don't either. It somebody in the town put it in our mailbox. There's no envelope with it.
Yeah. And somebody told him to split it out like that. It's I don't like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
I'm not wild about it either, especially
Yeah.
because it was not discussed ahead of time.
Jim, you have any input?
Steve, I agree with you on this one. Um, I'm trying to keep track of all this. Is impossible to figure out what to write down here.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think going Rita's suggestion that that 2,000 a year is the right way to go, and we should just simply maintain that. I think that's what's acceptable to me, at least, because we know that it's costing us 4,000 every 2 years. That's been pretty much documented because Leverett's doing that, we're doing that, so we should stick with in our budget to allocate 2,000 a year for the service, period, and none of these little compromises. I think. I mean, it seems like Rita Farrell is willing, thinks that that's a fair solution. So I think that would be true for me too.
Yeah, I think going forward, that's where we're headed, and sounds like that works for everyone, and that's great. The only point of negotiation right now is, so what do we do for this year? Because we only have 435, and we have a bill for 3,500.
But actually, Gail, we've got the 435 in this year's budget, but we've got the $850 from last year's budget that Gail Weiss carried over. So
Good. Yep. Good point.
we've got $1,285 there.
Yep.
And we can argue that that's what the town approved,
Yeah,
and that went through the whole budgeting process, and that it's reasonable, therefore, to spend exactly that amount because the town said it was a good idea. So, and you know, and it had gone to it had been reviewed by the FinCom and all the other kind of, so yeah, so
that's the way it is.
You know, so the audit is coming in higher this year than the town appropriated. They need to go to the FinCom for a reserve fund transfer to cover the difference.
For the town, not for us, right? Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will communicate with the select board then that as a group, we're glad to pay I shouldn't say we, the MLP would like to pay $2,000 every year per usual to go forward, and that for this year, the town should use the $850 that was encumbered from fiscal year 2024, the 435 that was budgeted per the vote in town meeting, for a total of 1,285 to go towards this bill, and the town just needs to cover the shortfall this year.
Yeah, sounds good.
And any dissension on that? Sound all right? Okay. All right, I will take care of that. All right. That is it on my list. I'm looking at everything else here. Does anybody else have anything?
Quick question, just a quick question. Did the hum go away, or the buzz, or the feedback when I turned down my volume? It did. Okay. Yeah, sometimes that'll do. Yeah.
Thinking at some point we will need to discuss our ISP contract.
Yep.
And Gail, you can figure out when we should start discussion of that, and maybe we should schedule some executive session time in a meeting for discussion in an upcoming meeting.
Definitely. I want to get through the budget, and then and as soon as that's done, you know, by October, November, start speaking to Sheld. The way that I'm going to go about that is I'm just going to call up Sean Fitzgerald and say, we're interested in extending instead of going out to bid. Are you interested in also extending our contract relationship? and start, kind of start the negotiations there.
Mhm.
2 year or a 3 year term? Is it 2 or 3?
Um, I honestly can't remember what
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
one or
I
the
know
other,
that
but
I know that a
yeah.
bidded contract is a 3 year. I don't know if it's an extension, if it's a year or 3 years or 2 years. I don't know. It's not going to be longer than 3 years because if we do that, it's a town vote. I do know that.
The current con not contract or intergovernmental agreement is 3 years, and we're coming up on the end of or at I guess the end of the second year
Okay. Yeah.
right now. So the current agreement runs through September 2025. Is that roughly?
I'll have to check when it
Yeah.
was signed. It was a little bit um uh flaky in the way that like we signed, but then they didn't take over the actual services until this certain date, but our contract actually did kick in on signing. So I will figure all that out.
But it's approximately another year left in the current agreement.
Yeah, it's around July or August
Yeah.
of next year that will hit the 3 year mark with Sheld. Um, Anything else?
Oh,
Okay. All right,
Gail,
Jim, I owe you a paragraph about the subsidy. Steve, I'm going to send you an email with it's just the re-forward of all those documents again.
and Gail, send it in a fresh email. I think the problem was it got in a queue somewhere and it
You got it.
may
I'll
still be
change.
there and I can't find it.
Yeah, I'll change the subject line for you.
Yeah.
Um,
My minutes are going to be very, I don't know what to write here. This is a very
it's all right, Jim. Whatever yeah, capture
I'll
what you
dribble
can,
some.
put it up for us, and we'll sort out the details.
All right. I'll do my best.
All right. Well, if that's it, then
Let's see, next meeting date is October 16.
October 16th. That's it.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Second. Aye.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay. Good
All
seeing you
right.
all.
All right, sounds great. Thanks, guys, and thanks for talking about those tough things. It was a
Uh,
good discussion. All right,
very good.
bye.
Bye bye.